Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the stated topic here is Impressionism, but all the questions don't have to be about Impressionism, okay? I don't want to narrow it too much. It's just the focus area because it's something that I think a lot of times we really don't get to emphasize a lot in class. So we're going to try to put that into context, but also remember anything about like the late 19th century is fine. And so as far as that goes, let me go ahead and get in here and get to some of my stuff that I've got here on Impressionism, which is something, one of the things about these fiveable hangouts or these fiveable review sessions is that, you know, I'm doing things in here that I haven't sometimes that I haven't even necessarily put on my YouTube channel yet. So y'all are seeing stuff that other people don't get to see. Now, if I can do just a little shameless self-promotion, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I have, speaking of AP Euro century, on my SoundCloud, I've just posted, and I'm still doing a couple like you know, edits there, but I have posted my new Otto von Bismarck German Unification rap. I know that's been something that we did already, but if you go to my SoundCloud, you can get in there and you can hear this rap, you know, which I've done some stuff here. Yeah, so anyway, as far as that, I'm just really proud of it. Not that I've got great skills as a rapper, but I mean, you know, when you're putting like Otto von Bismarck and his whole career into like meter and rhyme, even if I were just writing a poem, it's just kind of cool to have done Bismarck a tribute. We were doing a little Instagram live the other night. Somebody was like, "You need to do a Bismarck rap on your Warm Water Records SoundCloud," and I was like, you know what? Why not? And so we've got that there, ladies and gentlemen. So that's an option for you to look at some other time. All right. So can we walk you through Romanticism to Realism to Impressionism? And we've kind of got a combination of these things here, okay? So first of all, I think that it's good to kind of put this into its context, all right? So Romantic art, okay? So we're looking through the major 19th century art movements, okay? We want to start with Romanticism. Now, and also art is always a product of its time and oftentimes a reaction to something, okay? So when we think about Romanticism, for example, and Romantic art, then what we're thinking about here largely, okay, what we're thinking about here largely is the Industrial Revolution, okay? So Romanticism, let's see, Romantic art. All right, so if we go through here, and remember, Wikipedia is going to typically be the best place to you know, to find these things, you know, public domain things. And sure enough, there you see the wanderer above the sea of fog. Okay, so a wanderer above the sea of fog. He is you know, standing there. Now note that you've got a human subject here, but you know, really this guy is with his back turned to you. He's inviting you to look at what he's looking at. The painting is not about the man. And so if you look at neoclassical art, for example, which is one of my favorite art movements, Jacques-Louis David, it's very anthropocentric, okay, very human-centered. And so this is going away from human-centered, and really there's a lot of landscape painting. Now, there are paintings of people, but the main thing you want to know for your AP Euro exam, taking a survey level course, is that, you know, a big feature of Romanticism is landscape painting, okay? And so now there is you know, there's a man that's kind of looking out there, and you know, but then again, he's looking at something, he's thoughtful and observant. So Romanticism, you know, now another thing here, like you look at this one, okay, so there is you know, out there, now this is again kind of a, you know, now Romanticism and nationalism work really well together as well. Delacroix's Liberty Leading the People, okay, if that's in here, yeah, this is a romantic art painting. Now the other thing is just the kind of romanticization, you know, as far as when we romanticize things, you see that little kid with a couple guns there, that's not very safe. There is France personified in the form of this beautiful and topless woman, you know, holding the flag. And really the thing is, like, it's beautiful scenes, but also beautiful ideas. Okay, so you see that she's, you know, she's showing this very nationalistic side here. Then we see here now another thing about Romanticism. So, you know, when we think about the art imitates the movement, there are crusaders thirsting near Jerusalem. Now, when you look at it from the point of view of the Enlightenment, you think about the Middle Ages, the Crusades. That's not really a time of like very, you know, advanced civilization. to them. But the Romantics tended to be more religious, and that was something that was great. Now I tell you, I love me some William Blake. Okay, so you see here, like, I mean, William Blake had some, I don't know if these were drug induced or not, but he's putting some stuff out there. He's got these paintings on the Book of Revelation. He's the same one who was a Romantic poet who's known for his songs of innocence, songs of experience. Also, in my Romanticism lecture, I quote William Blake's poem Jerusalem, which is focused on, like, this idea that there's this old story that Jesus and Joseph of Arimathea, you wonder, this guy shows up in the Bible, he's like, oh, Jesus can borrow my tomb for a couple days, and you don't know who he is. So there's the story that Joseph of Arimathea was a tin merchant, and at this time he went up to Britain, and he brought little kid Jesus with him. Stay hydrated, kids. And so the thing is that people who are British, they're like, hey, Jesus actually stepped foot on our soil. And so he's like, hey, remember the Britain that Jesus walked onto? Is it the same as these, the pastures green and all that? And he's like, what would Jesus think about these dark satanic mills? Of course, he asked that like very poetic. Okay, but really Romanticism, wow, is that an angel? That is so awesome. And of course, there is an angel. And then you see a child there. Now, here's another thing. You see the natural landscape. Now Thomas Cole was actually an American, so a part of the Hudson River School. But you see here, childhood, one of the 4 scenes from the Voyage of Life. Now that is pretty cool. I'm gonna look that up real quick because this is kind of new on me. But as far as that goes, now, yeah, let me make sure that Thomas Cole was an English-born American painter. Yeah, landscape and history paintings. And so, you see here the Voyage of Life. And now remember the Romantics' glorification of childhood. So that's another thing. So you've got an angel, the glorification of religion, the glorification of nature, the glorification of childhood, which I was actually talking to someone who's, she watched my videos when she was in high school, but she's finishing up a degree in elementary education with a focus in history and social studies. And we were talking about how, she was talking about how they've got the, hey, Isella. And so as far, yeah, he did have quite a haircut, didn't he? He's kind of like hiding some, some balding and stuff like that. But, you got to get creative with that. I mean, I'm getting about 40. It's like my hairline's not what it used to be. So, I can imagine, you get a little older and all of that kind of stuff. And you see Harry Potter in the corner, right? Oh, yeah, I do have some Harry Potter up there, don't I? So, yeah, I was like, what, Harry Potter? Oh, yeah, there he is. Okay. So as far as that, yeah, I'm not really here. It's just really like an animated wizard photo. Okay, where was I on that? Yeah, I was like Harry Potter. There we go. But anyway, maybe that she was talking about how they've got like 5th graders have a unit on the Holocaust, for example. And I was like, whoa, that's so early. And she said there's a lot of children's literature about the Holocaust. And I'm thinking about like my daughter, my daughter's in 3rd grade. And I'm like, my daughter's so innocent. Like I have some, I love the Enlightenment, but I also dabble in Romanticism a bit. Like when it comes down to like, my daughter, learning about like slavery and the Holocaust and like some of these other things, I'm like, I want her to have that time of innocence before she's, before she's learning about that kind of stuff. That's just kind of, but that's a very romantic inspired, sort of thing. Yeah, like an hour is good. They're about an hour. Sometimes it'll go a little over, sometimes a little under. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, ask questions and upvote questions, okay? Now, so Romanticism, now this is something too, like if I were to think about it, I mean, I told you I've got this, this new Bismarck rap. If you think about Bismarck's Realpolitik, if you think about Bismarck's Realpolitik, it's really about, what Italian unification, German unification, the second industrial revolution. We're getting into much more pragmatic territory, aren't we? So as far as that goes, something to think about there is that we need to think in terms of when we think about Bismarck, it's like, okay, we're getting more pragmatic and we're less focused on the isms. And even Italian unification is like that after the revolutions of 1838, okay? 1840, did I just say 1838? I meant 1848. Okay. So as far as that goes, and let me go ahead and get into realism. So Bismarck's like, enough of these ideological isms. Let's do some real politic. And I think I'm going to play my Bismarck rap in the background while we look at some of this realism. Okay.
Warm Water Records, Otto von Bismarck. Looks like there's German states out there that need to be unified. Blood and iron, or like blood and bars. Y'all listen to this.
All right.
I'm the Iron Chancellor, and I feel an obligation to unify the German states under Russian domination, a conservative at heart. But I've got a little trick. It's the politics of power. Call it real politics. An alliance with the liberals, because I'm industry emphatic, and they're secular. They like my culture comp against the Catholics. Ban the social democrats, because I'm gonna put it on the fat. Germany will never be a socialist country. I've got old age pension and some accident insurance. If you're hurt at work, I've got your back. You have my reassurance. Call it state socialism. All the liberals gonna hate, but without the working classes, we can't unify the state. The position of
Okay, that's interesting.
at this hour will not be determined by its liberalism, but its power. Great questions are decided by speeches or majorities. It's blood and iron. I was born to spread authority with the Austrians as allies.
All right, now this one here, okay, as far as that goes there, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at this one. This to me is very, very interesting, because check out how, like, I mean, at first I thought I was looking at a photograph. Okay, is anybody else? I mean, this is one of those things that I'm looking at this, and it's like, I mean, at first I'm like, is that a painting or is that a photograph? And so you see where realism is human, you know, it's again back to more anthropocentric, and seeing people doing these mundane things. Now, you know, we're seeing a lot of people still in these, you know, in these settings, but, you know, we can see where, you know, they're out there working. They're just doing everyday sort of things here. And it's just, it looks like stuff that, oh, wow, you've even got like bunny ears. The guy's giving somebody bunny ears, this guy. So when it comes down to it, you know, this is just, yeah, the Jokers. Okay. So, and this looks like this is a Russian painting here. And so that's realism. Now, as far as what Impressionism is reacting against, okay, let's think about, you know, what we're doing here is that, you know, we're looking at all of this, you know, all of this realistic stuff that, okay, so what was Impressionism reacting against? Okay, so when you look at this realism school, this is one of those things, there's not a lot of creativity here, you know, when you think about it. Like, you're really, it's just like, look at this and paint it just as it is. Okay, so, you know, here is the rear of a house and backyard. Now, you know, you're thinking about that, and as it's getting into the late 19th century, you start to think, you know, if I want to paint something just as it is, then why don't I just take a photograph? Now, of course, they don't have color photographs at that time, but at the same time, you know, we're looking here at these, you know, at these three peasants in a field, you know, and then it's like I paint. Now, this is a little bit not quite so realistic, but wow, that looks very realistic. Okay, so when you look at Impressionism, it's reacting to all of this stuff here, which the irony of Impressionism, it's just like anything that happens. Like, you think about the Bolshevik Revolution, for example, you know, it's like, oh, we want to overthrow this class system, you know, with this elite. And what do? They create a new elite. Okay, so that's what happens when these things are going down. And so as far as Impressionism, okay, when we think about this, the Impressionists, they're challenging this conventional realistic art form. Now, let me show you how to, and this is really the peak influence of Impressionism is 1870 to 1890. And this is getting into, my friend Paul Sargent has a video on what's called the Belle Epoque. You know, you've got this this time period where you have a good bit of, you know, an expansion of the middle class. You don't really have any, like, you know, continental wars going on or anything like that. And so it's a pretty peaceful period. And art is, of course, going to imitate that sort of thing. Now, we're thinking about Impressionism, that we've got, first of all, visible brushstrokes. Okay, now when you're looking at those realistic paintings, you're not seeing visible brushstrokes. The goal is to make it look as if you're really looking at it. Now, Impressionism, we don't see that. So the visible brushstrokes, you're not looking at it and like, is this a painting or did somebody take a picture of this? Okay, this is a painting. Now, also creative use of color, okay, because realism is so limiting in the sense that you're supposed to paint things just as they appear. And, you know, you almost feel like it's kind of like today, if you're just like a transcriptionist and you're like, I want to be like an actual writer or, you know, a rapper or, you know, something like that. I want to create art. And, you know, so let's mess with the use of color a little bit, not get too creative with it until we get the post-impressionists, but creative use of color. Let's work with it a little bit. Now, open composition. Now, what I mean by open composition, okay, is that a closed composition is when everything is there that's supposed to be there. So if I were doing a closed composition thing on my face, okay, now I'm actually going to get onto my Snapchat, Tom Ritchie SC, all right, and I'm going to actually demonstrate that, okay? So as far as that goes, hey there, students, I'm here doing a fiveable session for AP Euro, fiveable.me, and I'm showing the difference between open and closed composition. So open composition, the whole thing's there. So if I've got my face in here, closed composition. Did I say that? Yeah, okay, wait. Do I need a, oh, you know what? I'm gonna try that again. Okay, so hey everybody, I'm doing a live broadcast with Fiveable for AP Euro, fiveable.me. Now, I am talking about Impressionism and explaining the difference between open and closed composition. Now, closed composition, it's kind of like a detective when they say case closed. It means we've solved the case. A closed composition painting of my face would include my whole face, okay? That's closed composition. Now, put that on my story there so people can see that. And so open composition, okay, we're doing open composition. I'm showing half my face, that the rest of it's for the imagination. So the case is not closed. If we're looking at this, you know, as a detective, as like Sherlock or something like that, then we are thinking, what about the other half of the face? This is open composition because the rest is kind of open to the imagination. So join me over at Fiveable, or hopefully enjoy the quick AP Euro art history lesson. Always a pleasure. All right, so as far as that, open composition. All right, so I'm showing off open composition and fiveable.me/live. Okay, so we're here, ladies and gentlemen, and let's go ahead and I'll put that on there. And so the Impressionists liked open composition. And so you see here, Haystacks by Monet. You notice that, you know, you're like, why is he not painting some of the haystacks? Sometimes it can be kind of annoying, like when somebody's, you know, taking a picture of someone, like a full-length picture, and it cuts off their feet or something like that. You're like, you know, what in the devil is, you know, is going on here? So Claude Monet's Haystacks, okay? And so that's open composition. Now, the other thing here is accurate depiction of light. So we're going to be somewhat creative with our use of color, but light needs to be accurately depicted. So when you look at the haystacks here, you can see here that Monet is very much, you know, when it comes to the shadows, they're very much on point. How's the sun hitting this? What shadow is it projecting? About what kind of degree of shadows do we see? Now, another thing is that you'll notice when you look at Impressionist paintings that Impressionists, now there are some Impressionists that use black paint, but there was typically, that was frowned upon because in nature, they want it to look more natural by mixing colors, okay? So, you know, you can see here that in order to get the darker color, they're not just like, you know, putting some black into the same paint, but kind of creating some of their own colors as well, okay? So as far as that goes, and finally, mundane subject matter. Now, another thing that we want to note is the context of Impressionism is that we have an increasing amount of urbanization. Now, some Impressionist paintings do show some, you know, some aspects of urban life. That's one thing when you're thinking about the, for example, Monet's Impression Sunrise, where you get the whole Impressionist thing. Now, Impressionist started as a pejorative term, okay? This was something that that you're, you know, they were like the Impressionist. It was a dismissive thing, and they ended up turning that into, okay, we're the Impressionists. That's who we are. Now, when you look closely enough at Monet's Impression Sunrise, you can see in the background like some cranes and smokestacks. Now they're not really all that visible. It kind of looks like, oh, there's the sunrise. Isn't that cute? And then we see this, but then also note how the sun, and this is something you can see sometimes when you're looking at the sun through smoke or smog or something like that, how the sun doesn't really cast like too much of a light, that it's just the sun there. So, you can kind of infer some of that, but it's a very creative venture. Now, Claude Monet was the most famous of the Impressionists, okay, kind of the leader of this whole Impressionist movement. So that's Impression Sunrise, where the critics of the Impressionists, like for a while, Impressionist, it was hard to get exhibited. People were dismissing it. But later on, it became something that was a very respected art form. And then the Neo-Impressionists start kind of going their own way, and they start defying the rules of Impressionism, which that's kind of a funny thing when you think about it, that, Impressionism started as defying rules and then had its own rules, okay? So as far as that goes, that's the Haystacks. Now, this is kind of unfinished here. Now, we see here lily pads, okay, the water lilies. And, then again, visible brushstrokes, mundane subject matter, all of that kind of stuff there. And then we see a bridge, okay? We see a bridge here. And, there you go, just painting it, but being very creative. Now, here's something that is one of my favorites, the Houses of Parliament series, okay? So what Monet did is he was in London, and he went and painted, just several times he went and painted the same thing. Now, the same building can give you a different impression. Now, that's the thing. You're just kind of taking it in. What kind of impression am I getting? Let me depict the light accurately, and where am I going to go from there? Okay, so this is the Houses of Parliament, but he paints the same thing lots of times. So you can see here, kind of a cloudy evening, kind of twilight sunset there. A foggy day of some sort, the famous London fog, so to speak. There are some birds, okay? So he's seeing like the birds are out. So let me go ahead and paint some of the birds on there, because that's part of the impression of this scene. There's a little guy on a boat, kind of like Impression Sunrise. Now, this one's one that this one always reminds me of Lord of the Rings, like where they show like Mordor, and they have, Gollum there. Now, some of you kids may not have seen Lord of the Rings, but you need to. Shame on you if you haven't. But like where they've got Gollum up there, and he's like, Shire, Baggins, that sort of thing. But, oh gosh, I need to drink a little water with that rasping. My precious, All right, so as far as that goes, that's another one. So there is Monet in Venice, okay? So Monet in Venice, we've got a few things that he's painting there, that we see here, that Monet has got the Grand Canal that he painted in 1908, and also same time in Venice, Monet's sunset in Venice. Okay, so that's another, Venice. I mean, beautiful city, beautiful city. I'd love to go there sometime. So as far as that goes, Monet in Venice. All right. And so then now this is a work. I might need to see if I can find a better resolution of this one. This looks like a lower resolution thing. But this is Edgar Degas. Okay. Now this is very indicative of Impressionism. Like, really getting the beauty out of like very small things. Okay, so a woman after the bath, woman drying herself. Okay, and so Degas is taking this mundane but very beautiful moment. There's something beautiful about a woman getting herself ready now, before she shows herself to the world and all of that stuff. And so that's Degas. We see there another painting here. I'm not familiar with this artist, but there is somebody just kind of looking out a window, and again the visible brush strokes. Now there's a woman. Notice kind of an open composition here where you don't see this woman's whole body. We see here the dance class. That's another Degas. And then a bridge. Now this one, almost, is kind of like, you know, a little more realistic looking, but that's another one there. There's some American kind of impressionist sort of thing. My students put some of these together. There is the woman with a parasol. I guess that's sort of like umbrella, but maybe that's more for the sun. And there's her child with her. Now, this one comes up a lot. This is, now it doesn't quite look so impressionistic as far as the visible brushstrokes, but you can see there where it's just kind of showing you a section of Paris on a rainy day. So we want to note just that we see this urbanization. We start to see urbanization and kind of like, this is what city life looks like. These are some people walking through the city, which it's kind of interesting after going to Paris. You know, it's like automobiles like are on these same streets today. You know, it's just interesting thinking about, you know, usually this was mostly pedestrian traffic and some horse-drawn carriages and stuff like that. And so the bathers, okay? Now, post-impressionism, okay? Now, post-impressionism, basically what you're going to see here is they're just getting more creative with stuff, more creative with color, the use of light. There's Van Gogh's self-portrait. Van Gogh is the most famous, or as the Dutch say, Van Gogh, okay? Van Gogh. Now, I told one of my Dutch friends, I said, Van Gogh sounds Van Gogh sounds really funny. And the Dutch person's like, well, what about the way you say it? Van Gogh, Van Gogh. And the Dutch person thought it was so funny. Like, you know, oh, you said Van Gogh. And then I'm like, yeah, but you call him Van Gogh. You know, and it's such a weird name. But then again, I love the Dutch people and their names and everything about their culture. But as far as this goes, you can see with Starry Night, I mean, there's not any kind of attempt to depict like the lighting in any kind of, you know, specific way. He's really just being very, very creative with this. Okay. So he is defying the rules of impressionism. Okay. And then there he goes there kind of, you know, warping some of the things here. So he's going kind of out of his way, you know, there he goes in 1889 there, just a bedroom. Okay. So he's painting the bedroom, but notice like, yeah, there's just, you don't see, now if this were a proper impressionist painting, you would see the light coming in through the window or something like that. And he would be studying how is the light moving, but he's just, no, this is my impression. And I'm not, you know, I'm going to be more focused on being creative here. So there are some sunflowers. And so that's what you're looking at there with post-impressionism. And so that's just kind of a quick tour of, you know, of impressionist art. And thank you very much, Emily, for helping me get started. Now, as far as that goes, how was Impressionism different for or I'm guessing that's from previous art styles? Okay, so the thing is that I think that, you know, when you look at the Baroque is in some ways kind of, you know, the Baroque. You know, now the thing is, I don't know if I'd call that bedroom relatively realistic, because you can tell that's not like a painting. The dimensions are kind of messed up, so I wouldn't necessarily say that. But Baroque is in a lot of ways very different from Impressionism, because remember, Baroque is like, first of all, you know, it's very anthropocentric. You've got human figures, and you've got, you know, you don't have visible brushstrokes, and you've got really dramatic scenes. Okay, think like Judith beheading Holofernes. You know, this was something that, like, you know, she is just getting after it, cutting his head off in the midst of the act. So there's action there, you know, blood spattering as his head's being cut off. That's Baroque. Okay, that's Baroque. So as far as that goes, you know what? I will get my lyrics. I'll have to look at the lyrics to the Bismarck Rap, which I've got here on my computer somewhere. So I am certainly willing to do that, and I will take that under consideration. So when you look at the Baroque, and then also the Baroque had these, you know, absolutist and Catholic kind of undertones there, and that's something you want to focus on as well. Whereas Impressionism is just, you know, what is the impression I'm getting looking at this? Okay, that I am looking at this mundane scene, and I'm kind of recording my impression and being a bit creative with it with the use of light. Okay, so that would be something that I would say here. And of course, we want to compare, Romanticism, realism, which Romanticism, even though, it's focused on nature, there was definitely, some extent, some degree of realism about it. Okay, so this is really, and what we want to note here that's important here also is when we think about what events caused Impressionism. Okay, so when we think about that, I would say that the development, urbanization, and the development of photography. Okay, now also the expansion of the middle class. So that's another thing, like who's buying art. So let's think about what was asked a little while ago, what I was just answering. If we think about Dutch Golden Age art, that Dutch Golden Age art was like more likely to depict mundane scenes than other art movements, because what we had here with the Dutch Golden Age art was that as far as that went, it was mundane scenes because middle class people are the ones that are buying it. Okay, so as far as that, yeah, middle class people are buying that art, and that is something that's something there. I've got to change the lid. Let's see. Y'all got me thinking about those rap lyrics now, so I'm a little bit distracted. All right, but you've got urbanization. You have also, that the people that are buying the art are just regular people. With the expansion of the middle class, it's not so focused on like, I want like kings and queens, stuff like that, but also the development of photography. Okay, yeah, shout out to Paul Stewie. There we go here. There we go. And let's see. So you know what? Y'all aren't going to leave me. Y'all aren't going to leave me alone until I wrap, are you? So let me go ahead and, and think about that. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear again. There's really okay. So the emphasis area is Impressionism. Didn't plan to talk about Impressionism for the whole time. Okay, I think that when it comes down to it, like you want to think in terms of like, how big is this going to be on the exam? Okay, I'll wrap. Let me go get this real quick. Okay. All right. Okay, I will get some wrapping done. But yeah, the thing is that remember that this is something that, the major, so when we think about the major Impressionist, the Impressionist art, as far as that goes, I think I saw the who were major Impressionists. Okay, so first of all, Monet. All right, so you're thinking about Monet, Claude Monet, also Edgar Degas, which he's the one that painted like the woman that is, getting herself ready in the morning. Okay, so she's toweling off her hair and drying herself off, and he's like, I want to paint that. So I would say for Impressionism, I would say if it were me, Monet and Degas would be people that I would be looking into. Now, Degas was also a notable anti-Semite who was very much an anti-Dreyfusard during the Dreyfus affair, and there's some controversy about how he depicted like Jews in paintings, which I remember reading about. And then I would note Van Gogh or Van Gogh as a post-impressionist. Okay, so that's what I would be looking at there. All right, so y'all want me to Impressionism is coming after like German unification and that sort of thing. And French also, if this is another thing. Like, how when you, like, there was a time where when you Googled French military victories, I think Google has fixed that, but around like 2008, when you Googled French military victories, it said, do you mean French military defeats? Okay, but that's actually, but back in the day, this used to be like Google would just ask you. Now, this was like really like archaic Google, okay, that as far as that goes, it would ask, did you mean French military defeats? Google used to be like easy for people to manipulate, much harder now. And so what I want to think about is, now that we mention it, that another thing, if you think about the Franco-Prussian War, that when France lost that war, that when you look through, like, I mean, going through Paris, one thing that got me is that Paris has so many military monuments. I mean, it's just like, it is military monuments galore. So it's a very, like, in tribute to military forces, but when it comes down to it, this is really starting to mark like the decline of France as a military power. And so people aren't creating as much like martial art anymore. You've got, just like President Macron. He's certainly not somebody that you would categorize as like a big, like, militarist type or whatever. So as far as that goes, ladies and gentlemen, let's see. Yeah, just make sure not to deport me or whatever they're doing with 21 Savage right now. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, y'all want me to do the new Bismarck rap. Make sure to show it some love on SoundCloud. So I will do it live. Let me go ahead and get my beat going here. Okay, so let me get that going. So Bismarck rap instrumental. All right. All right, little Warm Water Records, everybody. Blood and iron, more like blood and bars. All right, y'all ready? Okay, here we go. I'm the Iron Chancellor, and I feel an obligation. Unify the German states under Prussian domination. A conservative at heart, but I've got a little trick. It's the politics of power. Call it real politics. An alliance with the liberals because I'm industry emphatic and they're secular. They like my cultured cop against the Catholics. Ban the social democrats because I'm gonna put it bluntly that Germany will never be a socialist country. I've got old age pensions and some accident insurance. If you're hurt at work, I've got your back. You have my reassurance. Call it state socialism. Now the liberals want to hate, but without the working classes, we can't unify the state. The position of Prussia in Germany at this hour will not be determined by its liberalism, but its power. Great questions aren't decided by speeches or majorities. It's blood and iron. I'll use war to spread authority. With the Austrians as allies, we took Schleswig and Holstein, then declared war on Austria, part of my grand design. Prussia won in 7 weeks. Austria wasn't any match. Then it's time to provoke France with the M's dispatch. Wilkie led a modern army, armed with telegraphs and trains. France decisively defeated, gave up Alsace and Lorraine. After unifying Germany, then I really had some clout. Now it's 1890 and I'm out. Yeah, Bismarck got kind of suddenly dismissed, like fired in 1890. All right, so as far as that goes, ladies and gentlemen, okay, maybe I should just rap the whole time, huh? Is that what we need to do? Let me see what y'all, oh my goodness. Okay, so y'all, yeah, y'all really, okay, so great. But anyway, yeah, that was fun. That was fun. So go show that some love on my SoundCloud, make some comments, stuff like that. Oh, now don't blaspheme. Don't say I'm better than Tupac, right? My class really, I don't know how interesting it is. It is really, I don't do a lot of rapping in class. That's just tends to be something that I don't really do at work so much. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm kind of looking for some questions. Yes, okay. Now that's like way unrelated, Tejas, but I do, now as far as that, I use a PC to edit video. I use Camtasia Studio. It helps to, it records my screen and makes my screen track, and then I'd use that for editing most of the time. So that's what I use. All right, so come to our school. Yeah, show me the money. Okay, like as far as that goes, we need to get in touch. If there's an adult in your building that supports it, some schools have, some schools have money for stuff like that, like to bring in some schools and districts have AP money to bring in people that, to do something like I do, like prepping students for things. So if you want live events, talk to me outside of this thing. All right, you've got a test about socialism tomorrow. I'm sorry. This criteria, okay, okay, now this sort of thing here, at least you're being honest. I don't like it when people are like covertly trying to get me to do their homework. But as far as that goes, European socialism. Now, what you want to do here, first of all, there's the obvious thing. There's like Marx, right? There is Marx. Communism, Marx communism, the scientific socialism, where Marx says, like, look, we've got the history of, of human events is basically a history of class struggle. And so everything in history is framed in the context of class struggle. And so as far as that's concerned, that's like one form of socialism, that the proletariat one day will rise up and they will overthrow the government. Now, another one you want to look at is anarchism, okay? Anarchism is a form of socialism in the sense sense that it's trying. Now, while Marxist socialism, like the Marxists, they wanted to take over like governments, okay? Whereas the anarchists wanted to do away with all like centralized governments and nation states. Anarchists, it's not that they want zero government, but they only believe in local government, okay? Which kind of goes back to a more kind of utopian sort of thing. And then there are the original like utopian socialists. There was a guy whose name was, let's see, Fourier, yeah, Charles Fourier, okay, who was, or maybe Fourier or something like that. You know, this guy was a French philosopher. Now, this is what's known as utopian socialism. So what I would focus on, I would think, you know, in terms of that, yeah, send any inquiries about me to info@tomritchie.net. If they're serious inquiries, send, you know, serious business inquiries, send them my way, info@tomritchie.net. All right, so as far as that goes, Fourier, that's what he was the father of utopian socialism, okay? Oh, credited with having originated the word feminism in 1837. How about that? And so as far as that's going on, that, you know, basically the earliest socialists, now from what I, you know, as far as what you're dealing with at this time, is they're not trying to take over governments or anything. They're going to different communes. Like in U.S. history, you might hear about Brook Farm. Okay, now this was a voluntary kind of socialism, that you know, you would go and move out to this, basically this collective farm. Now, when you look at the Soviet Union, they were forcing the collectivization of farms. Now, in Israel today, you can go and you can live on a kibbutz. Like originally, like the first, you know, some of the first settlers in Israel, they lived on these collective farms, which they still have these in Israel, but it's voluntary. Okay, it's kind of like a part of their history. They support it, but at the same time, now, of course, Israel's become increasingly, like, you know, the population of Israel, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, and a lot of Jews coming from the former Soviet Union, has moved to the right a good bit, but they still have these collective farms, these kibbutzes, which are strictly voluntary. And so that's utopian socialism. Now, another thing is what we might call Fabian socialism. You know, this is something that is this is focused on, you know, it's named for Quintus Fabius Maximus and Fabian tactics and that sort of thing. That this is, you know, Marxism is, we're going to, the working class is going to spontaneously rise up and overthrow the bourgeoisie and create this communistic system, the end of history and all that. Now, then you've got, you know, Leninism. Now, you want to think about Leninism, that's an update of Marxism. It's still a violent overthrow, but there needs to be a revolutionary vanguard. There needs to be, you know, a group of people that kind of informs the working class of what their interests are. And then, like Fabian socialism, what we think here, this is to advance the principles of democratic socialism. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, that just gets me sometimes. Like, people don't know what democratic socialism is, okay? You can favor, like, you know, some, you know, having free college, free healthcare doesn't necessarily make you a democratic socialist, okay? It sounds more like what we might call social democracy, which is democracy that's influenced by socialism, but still has room for the market economy. Now, what the Fabian Society, like, they're trying to advance democratic socialism. Now, democratic socialism is just the advancement, and I think a lot of Americans just use this term wrongly, that it is the advancement of Marxist principles, of socialist principles, but instead of a violent overthrow, we're going to try to take over the government through the political process. Now, this is the origin of modern day labor parties, okay? So, in importance upon the Labor Party. Now, the thing is that today, the British Labor Party, or the German Social Democratic Party, and the French Socialist Party, okay? The French Socialist Party today is not like socialist per se. Neither is the British Labor Party. The British Labor Party, in order to get elected, they have to move themselves to the center, you know, and they're kind of having a hard time with that right now. And so as far as that goes, just remember that when we're talking about democratic socialism, the end result is the same. But the Fabian Society is like, let's just give let's like try to try to engage when we can, and we're going to try to implement socialism through the democratic process little by little, okay? And that includes the seizure of the means of production and all of this other stuff, but not the all-at-once revolutionary violent overthrow, but more of an evolutionary socialism. So what we've gone through here are utopian socialism, Marxism, anarchism, and then Fabian socialism or democratic socialism. And I don't know if that would be, you could put a variant in there going into Leninism, but I wouldn't. If you're talking about two, you know, I would think in terms of that goes. But that's those are some different types of socialism. All right. Okay, great. You are obviously trying to get me to do your homework because I'm familiar with the 2016 DBQ. And so I'm going to leave that up to you, ladies and gentlemen. Kate, I would think in terms of thinking like Bismarck versus Metternich, okay? Like think about Metternich as when we're thinking about traditional conservatism, one of the things that was a big pitfall that year, okay, is that people went into it. I'm trying to do like a, like tree pose here. I'm standing up trying to do a tree pose. So if you see me swaying, it's like I'm really trying hard. So as far as that goes, people were not defining the terms, okay? They weren't defining the terms. And so I would encourage you to define traditional conservatism as Metternich conservatism, okay? And of course, my rap could be helpful there. Now, remember that Bismarck, he was not a socialist per se, but he realized that if we want to try to he wanted to try to reduce the influence of the socialists by taking some of their more, some of their most popular proposals and putting those into law, so that, his hope was that would make less, that would basically scatter the socialists. But at the same time, I don't think that really worked kind of, the same way that Bismarck was trying to, try to do here. All right. So as far as wow, y'all have got now the timeline of Impressionism. Tejas, that was something that I answered earlier, but let me give you a very short answer, okay, because we're getting, 1870 to 1890 was the heyday of Impressionism, and haha, Haystacks heyday, you get it? So as far as that goes, 1870 to 1890, that was the heyday of Impressionism. And then Post-Impressionism is coming a little bit after that. So Post-Impressionism is like turn of the century, that sort of thing. But 1870, 1890, late 19th century will be sufficient, okay, if you're looking at if you're looking at the AP Euro exam, all right? Wow, we've got like 72 people in here. And ladies and gentlemen, be sure, okay, so we're getting to where it's getting closer to the exam. So we've got a lot of people in here and a lot, Tejas, okay, Tejas. And so as far as that goes, make sure you're upvoting, okay? Make sure you're upvoting questions. And then that way, it's like the cream rises to the top. And so if you go through the questions and you see, you know what, I think that would work. That's funny. Somebody's got me as their profile picture, and they're called Baker Mayfield. That's hilarious. All right. Leading up to, all right. One thing that I would note here, and I'm going to kind of get to, we've got the last 10 minutes. I'm just going to start going to general questions. I think I've kind of, hit Impressionism over the head quite a bit. But as far as that goes, I was about to click on something. Oh, here we go. They upvoted. Okay. So what were the key events leading up to Germany's and Italy's unification? All right. That's two questions, but I'm going to answer the Germany and Italian unification. Now, what you want to remember is the revolutions of 1848. Now, that's one thing that, I saw when I had that Wikipedia article up. I haven't really delved into realism that much, like late 19th century realism, but it says that realism took off after the failed revolutions of 1848. That Romanticism, see, the early Italian unification movement was dominated by Mazzini, and Mazzini was a romantic nationalist, and he wanted to unify Italy along the lines of romantic nationalism. So that's something that we need to focus on with that romantic nationalism. That's dead after 1848. That Garibaldi and Garibaldi's like in with Mazzini at that time, and they take over Rome and they proclaim the Roman Republic. We've got a republican form of government. This is also beautiful. And then the Pope helped by, the Austrians and the French. They go in there and they they basically, throw the revolutionaries out of Rome. And then after that, that's when Garibaldi, who wasn't a big fan of Cavour, but he ends up saying, you know what, this is the guy who's going to get the job done, and I want to unify my country. And that's another thing when you look at the revolutions of 1848 in Germany, which I've got a video on German unification. Paul Sargent's got a great one on Italian unification. So as far as that goes, that the revolutions of 1848 in Germany, they had the Frankfurt Parliament. Okay, they had the Frankfurt Parliament, and that didn't last very long. Okay, that Frankfurt Parliament was, a very, was something that it just didn't come together. They're like, we're going to get, we're going to put this together, and we're going to offer the King of Prussia, the crown. And the thing is, the King of Prussia didn't want that pig crown. Okay, which, like I've said here, one of the things I like about this rap, if I can continue to promote my new rap that's available on SoundCloud, probably going to do a video a little later in the coming weeks, but where I've got this verse here, the position of Prussia in Germany at this hour will not be determined by its liberalism, but its power. Great questions aren't decided by speeches or majorities. It's blood and iron, expletive deleted. I'll use war to spread authority. Now, this is actually this is about all taken from Bismarck's speech, his blood and iron speech, where he said that, look, Prussia, the position of Prussia in Germany will not be determined by its liberalism, but its power. Okay, and that goes into Bismarck's realpolitik. So Bismarck and Cavour, much more about realpolitik. There's not a Kahoot today, but I think that's probably something that'll be done later on. Okay, so make sure that's something that'll probably be done later on. And so let's see about what we've got here. Again, I'm trying to find to try to diversify it a little bit. And I know a lot of y'all here are, first timers. We've got, it's getting closer to the exam. So remember that the topic that is put out there, it's something I'm going to talk about. I'm going to take a few questions on that, but we can always, I do want to spend some of this time diversifying. All right. So as far as that goes, I would say that, what's interesting. Okay. Abstract art. I would say it's something, it's kind of getting on that spectrum toward abstract, but remember that abstract art is really about, suprematism. That is something like abstractions are completely taken away from reality. So, there's this one artist that was a, suprematist. And so what you see here, let me show you, like when we talk about abstract art, okay, let me pull this up. And I'm gonna put that on there. Okay, so this guy, the black square. Okay, let me show you this. Let's see, share that screen, and we'll get it going. All right. So suprematism, the black square. This was a Russian artist. Okay. So you see here now, suprematism. This is basically like we are taking art away from physical reality. Now this is chipped a little bit. Okay. So it's not what it used to be, but all he painted was literally a black square, and he's saying, look at my art. Okay. So it's a black square, and it's like, look, check out my art, yo. Now, he is trying to divorce art from physical reality. Okay, so on one hand, you've got like realism, which, neoclassicism, other art forms, Renaissance art that are trying to depict physical reality. So when you're talking about abstract art, it's got to be, for it to be purely abstract, it's got to be separated from physical reality. So I would say that when you're looking at Impressionism, it's not a completely objective depiction of physical reality, but it's still based on reality. So I would not refer to Impressionism as abstract art. But especially as you get into Post-Impressionism and you look at Van Gogh's Starry Nights. Now, again, it's not completely separated from, from reality, because, but there are some abstractions here, okay? But purely abstract art is completely separated from physical reality. So that's something that y'all want to keep in mind for that. All right. Okay. And again, okay, another thing, ladies and gentlemen, okay. So don't ask people to upvote your question, okay? Your question should be upvoted on its own merits. Like, we want the market, like, there's a market here, and if people are manipulating it, it's not going to work as well. So in the chat, now, if you've got a little group chat with your friends from your class, then be my guest. But in this, we need to be, you know, if people want me to take that question, they can upvote it. Now, as far as that goes, is it humanly possible to get over 2 points on the DBQ? Gabrielle, I would invite you to take a look at my DBQ video. I've got an AP Euro DBQ video on YouTube that's for free. I've also got my 8-month writing clinic. If you're like, hey, I really want to know how to get all these points and write well, and that free video, I'd like to get deeper into that. In the 8-month writing clinic, I'm actually like going through it step by step and actually writing essays basically in front of you. Okay. So as far as that, I don't have a Quizlet, but I've got, look up Romulus Euro at the App Store at Google Play. So I've got an app. Romulus Euro has several hundred questions that address AP Euro content. So, if you go to Romulus Euro, then go take a look at that, and that's something that that could help you out. All right. So as far as you have that app, thank you so much, Teresa. Hey there, students. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we are heading into the end of this. I'll be back at 9 p.m. and I'm going to be here every week between now and late April. Remember, if you want access to the replays that are indexed by the questions that are being answered, and you want to make sure to reserve your spot in the cram sessions that we're going to do in May, make sure to subscribe to Fiveable Plus, okay? And that's only, I believe it's still only $20 if I'm not mistaken. So go to fiveable.me and check that out, okay? That's something that I think would be well worth it. But remember that these live sessions are going to be free no matter what, okay? So make sure that, join me over here every week. And next week, I believe, is the, let's see, I think that's the last Wednesday in February. So if I'm not mistaken, we are going to be on World War I. Okay, yeah. So we're going to be, let's see. So yeah, World War I for APUSH and AP Euro. Now that's something you might want to think about there, that you might run into the APUSH chat as well, because I'm going to be doing World War I from an American perspective. So think about that. Yes, we are done now. I'm done for the night. And remember, I'll be here every week, and so good to see the crowd getting bigger, and glad to see that. Remember to check out Fiveable Plus, as well as my YouTube channel, Romulus Apps, all of that kind of stuff. Good night, everybody, and it is always a pleasure.